Well, good evening. I haven't introduced myself, it occurs to me, but my name is J.P. Michaud, and I'm a research scientist at K-State Ag Research Center here in Hayes. And I'd like to talk to you a bit about liability. And liability means who is responsible for anything that goes wrong or any problems that might develop. In this case, liability must be shared somehow among three parties with various degrees of vested interest. The corporation that installs and operates the machinery, the landowners who lease their land for the project, and the government of Ellis County that grants permission for the project. Now we know that limited liability corporations use those three letters for a reason: to protect themselves from responsibility for their actions. Their true corporate ownership is now Iberdrola, a Spanish mega corporation with a few liabilities problems of its own. Just in March 2007, Iberdrola was successfully sued for $46 million for overcharging customers and unfairly blocking competition in its efforts to create a virtual monopoly on power distribution in two Spanish provinces. That's its own country. But with corporate assets now approaching $64 billion, they probably don't care. It's less than 1% of their net worth. But they also have some power distribution problems in Europe that recently led to numerous lawsuits for major equipment damage from hotels, hospitals, large universities, and utility companies. Maybe it's trying to integrate all that wind power. But if we have any problems with these windmills, we won't need to call Spain. No, we can just sue our neighbors that hosted them, because the leasing agreements they sign in all likelihood render them fully responsible for any third-party liability, whether they realize it or not. I wonder if their homeowner's insurance would cover something like that. But that isn't what worries me as much as the community liability. Now, I haven't seen the agreement, but I am told it includes no decommissioning bond that would normally cover the cost of removing these towers when they are no longer functional. Typically, a bond of $1 million per tower is posted by the company and held by the county. In the absence of such a bond, this community assumes a $140 million liability. And if the leaseholders ever get tired of these things in their property and decide to hold the county responsible for their removal, all of us might just have to pay for it. And be aware, if the county gives permission to do this, we will have no one to turn to should anything go wrong. There are no federal or state regulations or statutes defining the responsibilities of companies developing industrial wind power projects. And that is truly astonishing. Apparently, there is no legislation to protect the people of this country from corporate opportunists who may come from Colorado or from Spain or wherever just to harvest our tax dollars and leave us a big mess. Eminent domain. Now there is a word that will make any landholder shudder in fear. And this is another insidious liability this community will accept. CPV will say, oh, we don't use eminent domain to run power lines across people's property. We just purchase easements. However, with a facility installed and only a portion of the required easements obtained, they can apply to KCC for a certificate of convenience. And convenient it is, because this certificate gives them the status of a utility company. So they can apply eminent domain against those resisting power lines on their land. This permit takes 2 weeks, there is no public comment period, no notification of affected landowners, and no recourse to appeal. I like this charter statement on environmental justice. It seems very appropriate about now, if only because this project comes with a community liability of such vast proportions. I guess we'll find out soon enough if we have environmental justice in Ellis County. And finally, I think it's fitting to conclude with some excerpts from our own zoning regulations that seem especially important right now. These words, health, safety, comfort, general welfare, acceptable noise levels, and protection of agriculture, should resonate loudly for everyone after what we have seen and heard tonight. By issuing a single permit, our county government can give this foreign company license to contaminate our groundwater, disrupt communications, endanger wildlife, agriculture, and human health, all the while leaving the people of Ellis County with no recourse to any higher level of government and no recourse for assistance in restoring a potential environmental tragedy. We can only hope our county commissioners remember the principles of their own mission statements and act on them. Otherwise, approval of this project will represent a monumental failure of our local government to protect its people, their land, and their heritage. Thank you.